Let's party.
Trail vlog 13 here, and we're in Moab. This is my first Utah trail. It is awesome, guys. Super steep hill climbs, lots of options to take harder or difficult lines. The whole time, I'm pretty sure we took every difficult line. We might have skipped one or two, but very fun. You guys are gonna love this one. After leaving the staging area, you maybe have to drive a couple hundred yards and you're already entering the famous Slickrock. For me, this is my first time in Moab, so driving on this kind of terrain was very unique and it was a fun feeling. And the traction you get from the Slickrock is unlike anything I've ever felt before when off-road. So if you're like me and you're wondering why they call it Slickrock even though it's super grippy, it's actually because way back in the day when people used to ride horses in this area, their hooves would be slipping and sliding all over this rock. So even though our tires grip onto it really good, we still call it Slickrock. Another thing you're also going to notice is the white markings on the trail. This indicates the direction to go and tries to keep you on trail because that's very important in this area. So the first obstacle of the day is this ledge that I come up to. It's maybe almost the size of my tire and normally wouldn't be that tough, but as you can see, my Gladiator's belly just scrapes the bottom of it. Not too bad. Threw it in 4 low. I think I even had to put on the rear lockers for this one, but once I did, I got rid of it pretty quick. It almost feels like the entire trail is an obstacle. Where a lot of times, at least a lot of these Arizona trails I'm doing, you're driving, then you go to an obstacle, and it's just calm trail, then an obstacle, calm trail. This almost feels like a steady obstacle the entire time. All right, so right now we're about to go down probably the steepest hill I've ever done. Let me put my seatbelt on. Definitely looks intimidating. Jeez. One of my favorite things about this trail is how many inclines and declines they have, and they're all really steep. For me, it was a huge confidence booster just because prior to this, I'd only done a handful of hills that were maybe 28 degrees. This was a great warm-up for the bigger hill climbs to come later in my weekend. Blended throughout the trail is actually a lot of these really wide open, smooth, sandy portions. It allows you to kick in a 2-wheel drive and just pick up some speed. It makes for breaking up the trail a little bit more interesting. I always love a trail with good variety, and this definitely helps with that. All right, we're doing an alternate route here. It's called the Wall. It's a little optional loop to make it a little bit harder. It looks pretty steep. We'll see how we do. That was cake. When you got lockers and 4 low. So I cannot say enough how beautiful this trail is. I think this shot really shows it off. You know, you come up the crest of this hill and you just start to see all these crazy fins and rock formations. If you've never been to this part of the country, it is going to blow your mind. My buddy from Oregon kept saying it reminds him of a different planet. This little spot in the distance, you can see there's a pergola that's got a picnic table under it. It's actually a little staging area for hikers, but it's a great spot for you to grab some lunch in the shade. If you've watched any of my past videos, you've probably realized I'm a pretty conservative driver. This is a situation where I probably could have driven a little faster up the hill, but honestly, I'm just in 4 low, creeping. If I don't need to give it gas, I don't. Why risk breaking something for an unnecessary obstacle? Now, when I need to use the gas, I will, but I don't really need that on this trail yet. You guys might have noticed that we are the only ones out here, and that is not selective recording. There's literally hardly anybody out here. Doing this trail, we did not see a single Jeep, and by entire weekend in Moab, we maybe saw 10 other vehicles. Probably because it's the hot time of year. We came at the very end of July, but if you want little crowds and can handle the heat, this was definitely the time to come. So I would say this is the third type of terrain you're going to see a lot of. You know, you've had the slick rock, the open sand, and now it's this compact dirt mixed with a bunch of rock just under the surface. This is a spot we stopped at for about 5 minutes just to take in the view. You really see how vast this Moab area is and how far the fens and Slickrock just go into the distance. This video definitely does not do it justice, but this is a great spot to just kick back and stop for a minute. Alright, I got my buddy Daniel behind the wheel right now. He's never driven a Jeep like this before, so he's a little bit nervous, obviously, because it's my daily driver and he doesn't want to damage it. And kind of like I said before, where the camera does not do it justice, and he's about to bang my hitch right here. Camera doesn't do it justice, but these obstacles do look a little more intimidating, especially when you're in a vehicle. So give yourself some grace, realize that you're still learning, trying to get better at off-roading. I'm the same way. I gained so much confidence on this trail just because there's so many opportunities to push yourself, push your vehicle, and the more you do, the more confident you get. You're going to look back at these smaller obstacles and laugh and think, wow, I can't believe I was nervous doing that. And I think this was a good example of that. So this is a steep incline that they're saying you want to get out and check before you get going. From here it doesn't look too bad, actually. Down here it looks better than when you're standing on top of it. I mean, this is barely off camber over here. Definitely looks and feels intimidating, but I got a good feeling about this, actually. One of the things I told myself on this Moab trip was I wanted to take all the hardest lines possible, at least that I was comfortable with and that I thought my Jeep could actually handle. This is a good example. I'm pretty sure the right side is a little bit harder, the left side a little off camber, but this one seemed a little bit more intimidating. And again, the theme for this is things look and feel really intimidating, and then you get done with them and you're like, oh, that was it? And you gain a whole bunch of confidence. Now I'm pretty much riding the brake the whole time. All I'm doing is
let off the brake.
Slowly letting off. After a little bit more rocky section, you're going to find yourself on the Slickrock once again. This is where the trail shines. It's truly incredibly fun. I think the last 25% of the trail might be the best. It's just constantly riding on these fens. You're following the track, again, like a roller coaster. You go up these really steep hills just like this with ease. It is such a unique feeling. Another sound you're going to learn to love is that chirping sound of your tires as they lose a little bit of grip on the Slickrock. I think this obstacle is a great example of how having a modified vehicle can actually make you take it for granted a little bit. I mean, if you look, my wheel's almost stuffed all the way in the fender. It's getting a ton of flex on these 38-inch tires. This is something that a stock vehicle might have a lot of trouble doing, but this Jeep just does it like it's no problem. So I always try to make sure I don't take anything for granted on my Jeep, especially as I keep upgrading it. So my technique for these hill climbs is just low and slow. You really have so much grip that it just crawls right up. There's barely any wheel spin.
Still good.
You could probably do the entire Fins and Things trail without lockers because the rocks are just so grippy. Now I will find out when I'm doing Hell's Revenge that sometimes you can go a little too slow on these hills, and I actually stalled out my Jeep at one point, but that was on a lot steeper incline. It is something to consider. You can go too slow to where you actually stall your vehicle out and you might slide backward on the hill. Check out my Hell's Revenge video to see that. This was an obstacle where Daniel did not feel comfortable doing it. When you're sitting in the driver's seat, it looks so steep, and it is, but I just forced him to do it because I wanted to get this shot and I wanted him to build his confidence. On camera, it never does it justice. It looks so puny, and you're probably thinking, why are you even nervous about that? If you've done any off-roading, you know that the camera can never do inclines justice. I think I mentioned this before, that driving on these tire tracks feels like a roller coaster, and this part is the most like that because you can start to see in the distance how far the tracks are going up and over the fens. It really does look like another planet out here, and with all the grip, it doesn't feel like you're ever going to fall off these tracks. So this portion of the trail makes me take back what I said about feeling like you'll never fall off the tracks. Because if you look right here, it gets really narrow and my right tire sinks deep to the right. That's where you just got to give it more gas and power through that. Because if I went too slow, I could have easily just sunk into the right and started to slide into that ditch. At the very beginning of the video, I mentioned the markings on the trail. This is a perfect example. You can see the arrows pointing forward, and that's the direction that I'm going. And then just above my Jeep, there's arrows pointing the different direction. So that's indicating the way on the trail you want to drive your Jeep. So if you find yourself going the opposite, you've probably gone the wrong way. A reason they call this fins and things is because thousands of years ago, these sand dunes were blown into these hard concrete-like sand dune structures. I mean, you can see it. They resemble sand dunes, but they're really hard. And when they're narrow and long like this, they look like fins. So that's how they got the name. Just finished the trail, fins and things. Took us about 3.5 hours. Great trail, lots of fun. Ton of the Slickrock, lots of tough hill climbs, hill descents. I think we broke a record, at least for me, getting to like 34 degrees of incline, which is pretty cool. Seems like a really good way to warm up to Moab. Built my confidence a ton because there was some stuff that I felt was very sketchy, but as I did it, I just feel so much more confident to do it now. So guys, thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe for more. See you in the next one.